Hi, welcome to Ladies Leading. I'm your host, Jessica Gendron. Maya Angelou once said, "There is no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside you." I believe in the world today there are too many stories of female leaders left untold. It has become my personal mission to give those stories a microphone. Ladies Leading intends to share the real stories of female leaders on their journeys to and through leadership, so that we might gain precious insight and advice from leaders just like them. We're giving women the microphone. Welcome to Ladies Leading. We are giving another woman the microphone. Today, our guest is Stephanie Ewing, and I would like to welcome Stephanie to the microphone. Stephanie, would you start by telling us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Sure. So thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here with you today. It's so fun to get to see people while we're all stuck at home and with the kids and everything's crazy. But so I am a commercial banker. I work for JP Chase in our middle market group, and I've been in banking my entire career. So right out of Purdue University, I've been in banking. I started on the retail side of the bank. I spent time in private banking, spent 8 years in business banking, and then most recently I've been at JP Chase on the middle market side since September. So banking, financial person, always been in business, love the relationship piece of it. And I think that's why I've been successful in business, is because I really honestly care about my clients. But I got to a point in my career where I was successful as a banker, and I thought to myself, there's got to be more to life than banking. And so that's when my husband and I kind of thought about, we've always talked about owning our own business, but what might that look like? We looked at private companies to buy, and the banker and me and Debbie Downer found holes in everything. So didn't want to buy somebody else's problem. That's when we looked at franchising. And I've always been huge into fitness and wellness, and I wanted to do something to help people be better and take care of themselves. And that's where we decided we were going to open a yoga studio. So we opened Honor Yoga in January of 2020. So right before the pandemic, perfect time to open a small business, right?
Perfect timing.
So we own a yoga studio on the side. Part of that was just me. I've always, well, not always, but I started meditating a few years ago, and I realized how much that really helps me just center myself. And if I don't get it done, I can tell I'm very frazzled. And I just wanted to bring that space for people to come and relax, take time for themselves, center their bodies, their mind, body, and soul, and kind of just get that me time that so many of us don't have. Outside of those two jobs, I'm also a mom. I have two kids, Amelia and Grant. They are 8 and 6, almost 9 and 7. We're coming up on birthdays.
Oh man, quarantine birthdays are super fun.
I know, it's going to be a blast. We had our 13th wedding anniversary in quarantine, and my birthday was in quarantine. So we got kids coming up, but it's been a blast. So I'm actually originally from Cleveland, Ohio. But came to Indiana, went to Purdue, met my husband there. He's an Indiana guy. So we kind of stayed here, and we have been here, 16 years, I guess I have been in Indiana. Well, 16 years since I graduated. So 20 years in Indiana.
Wow. Happy anniversary of being an Indiana resident.
I know. Thank you.
That's awesome. So I think that there's so much cool about, so many cool things about your background, Stephanie, just being a female in banking, particularly being a female in banking for 16 years, 16 years ago, it wasn't very prominent to have women in banking. And so will you talk a little bit about being a woman in sort of a very male dominated environment?
So it's funny because I never really felt I never felt any prejudice against me in any way during my career. And I don't know if that's just me being naive, because I am that way, but I think it's also that I'm just a strong personality, and I've always been one of the guys. So I kind of fit in, and I'm not prissy, kind of girly. But I have had some amazing people in my career that have propped me up, given me opportunities, and thrown my name into hats that I probably wouldn't have. And I've always been able to surround myself with other strong women business owners. And I think that's one thing from this quarantine that I've learned is that I really miss those relationships and business, just being with other people
Mm-hmm.
that are pushing to be better and always learning and growing. I miss that community of strong women business owners and women just in business in general. And that has something that I've always been a proponent of women in business. So I've really gotten involved in a lot of women's organizations. And I think that has helped me through my career, not only just having that support system, but they allowed me the voice to speak up and say, hey, you might want to think about this a different way. And women are important, and hear me. And I think it's really been a non-event that I am a woman in my career. But
Yeah.
except for the fact, I mean, it's been interesting because I do work from home sometimes anyways before this whole quarantine thing happened. And I was very specific when I came to Chase. I told them, I was like, I put my kids on the bus every morning. You're not going to see me downtown before 9:30, and you're not going to see me downtown at 5 o'clock because driving in traffic makes me mean, and I don't want to be mean when I get home.
Driving in traffic also makes me mean. So
it does. It's not fun in any way. But I think that being a part of those women's organizations gave me the courage to say that and stick up for, yes, I want this promotion and I want to be a part of your firm, but hey, these are my priorities, and I want to get my kids on the bus, and I want to be able to work from home unless it's needed that I need to be downtown.
that's such an important, I think, point, because I think so much of what we've learned about women that have been successful in their careers is that they learn how to advocate for themselves and the things that they need, and learn how to set boundaries, and I think so many young professionals, women in particular, don't always know or feel comfortable doing that. So talk to me a little bit about how they responded when you said, hey, these are the things. And
they were very understanding. They're like, oh yes, family comes first. And, I think even 5-10 years ago, if you would have said that, I don't know that would have gone over as well.
yeah.
But I think I was able to prove, say, I've worked from home and I've done this and I've been very successful in my career. And that's why you want me on your team. And I'm going to continue to do the same.
Yeah.
So they were very receptive and okay with that. So hats off to Chase for doing that. And I think through this whole quarantine thing, I think there's going to be a lot of people that feel more at ease asking for that, because we have all adjusted and we've proven that we can be productive at home. So I think you'll see a lot more people that take some more work from home time coming out of this.
Yeah. Do you think you were that good about advocating for yourself earlier in your career, or do you think that this is just something you've learned along the way?
No, I was definitely not. It's not my nature to advocate for myself. If I look back at, 22, 25-year-old Stephanie in banking, I was very much, I did what I was told. I didn't speak up. I never asked for raises. I never asked for the promotion because I didn't think I was good enough. So no, it's very much learned. And I think a lot of it has come as I've gotten older and I've done more personal development and gotten involved in these women's organizations. That learning and growing, conferences that you go to that really just energize you and make you think about something in a different way. I think it's definitely something I've learned over time. It was not something that right out of college Stephanie would have ever done.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that you made the point about being connected in the women's groups. That's how you and I got connected, I think, is just some of the women's groups here in Indianapolis. And, Stephanie isn't just in the women's groups. She's a leader. She's a voice that people look to in our city for female leadership. And so I want to give her that accolade because she's being more modest than she should.
Well, thank you.
But I want to talk about this business you started, because I think that we have a lot of female leaders that have been on the show, but I want to talk about the female business owner perspective too, and what it's like to start a business, and some of the lessons that you've learned. I mean, being a banker probably has to give you a little bit better perspective when you're starting a business and knowing some of the tricks of the trade. But will you talk a little bit about that process and that experience for you?
Yeah. So I think Travis and I kind of went at it a different way than most people, because I think a lot of people start a business because they're just so passionate about what that business is, right? However, Travis and I are not historic yogis. I am a historic lift all the heavy things, do all the HIIT workouts. I'll do yoga on Sunday for rest day. So we really took it as this is a business investment for us. We both read the book E-Myth, which is Top Reasons Why Small Businesses Fail. And that was very important for us. And it really confirmed the fact of why we wanted to purchase a franchise to start, because you need to run your business as a franchise. You need to have that process in place. The business can run without you. Now there's a lot more work. There should be.
Yeah.
You think like, yeah, I can fit this in the holes of my life, of my full-time job and my kids and the dogs and taking everybody where they need to go and do all the things. It's a lot. It is a lot. But I think what really helped me is knowing that I don't need to do everything on my own. I need to surround myself with the people that are good at what they do. I'm not going to pretend to be a CPA. I'm not going to pretend to be a good marketing person. I'm not going to pretend to know anything about the yoga community, because that's not who I am. So it's surrounding yourself with the people that know more than you do. I am not the sharpest crayon on the box, nor will I ever be. But I think what I've learned from business is finding those people that are smarter than you and leveraging them. I'm not afraid to spend money to do something correctly versus me trying to waddle through it myself. If I'm going to sit here and spin my wheels on something, there's somebody that knows how to do that better. And what's the trade-off of, can I pay somebody to do that for me and have it done right? So I think that's a huge key of how we've positioned our business.
Yeah. How do you determine what is stuff that you should outsource and what is stuff that you should be doing?
Oh, well, some of it I knew right away, like bookkeeping, like I know I'm a banker, but accounting is so much different than banking.
You're totally right. They're two different things.
Like I can read your financial statements and tell you how you're doing and all of that good stuff, but to put together your financial statements and do all the journal entries, that is not fun. And I do not like it at all. So I think it's just really being honest with yourself around what are your strengths and what pulls energy from you. So where are you getting energy from? So for me, I enjoy engaging with the community and putting the studio out there. So I do a lot of our marketing, but I lean on the franchise a lot for the marketing platform. Like they have all of that they give to me. It's just me putting it out. And that's because I'm a people person. I love to talk to people. I love to network. I love to get out there. So that is what brought me energy around the business. What sucked me down was doing the accounting and balancing the books and doing all the like mind body technology stuff behind the scenes. So my husband does all of that. We were able to get an amazing studio manager, which it's so yoga and banking kind of different, right? Like, so I'm very to the point, gotta have everything on an agenda, right? From my business background. And then yoga, everyone's like, everything's going to be great.
Let's just meditate on it.
So I was like, how am I going to find somebody that is an amazing yogi that understands that community, but will understand how I want my business ran, and that at the end of the day, it needs to turn a profit, right?
Yeah.
But after about 14 interviews, I came home crying and I was like, I'm never going to find the one. And my husband put an ad out on Indeed, and we got some really great hits from that. But our first one was who we ended up hiring, and she has an amazing fitness nutrition background. I've been in the industry for over 20 years, but found yoga and is a yogi at heart, and spent the past 4 years opening Lifetime Fitnesses around the country. So she understands how to open businesses. Just amazing woman, and props to Erin for doing what she does, because I am not her. The three of us really make a great team. We all bring great expertise to the table, and just realizing who does what well and allowing the others to stay in their lane.
Yeah. So opening a business right as the quarantine is happening, had to have been a challenge. Let's talk about those challenges that you've faced, opening a business throughout your career, whatever it is. Let's talk about that.
So we opened in January, and we opened with really strong numbers. Everything was going well. Obviously, new business struggles, you realize all the things that you didn't think about, right? But we were getting through it. Our numbers were great. We were profitable. Everything was looking fine and dandy. And then all of a sudden coronavirus hits and you have to close your doors 2 months after you opened them. But thank goodness we had the franchise behind us, because immediately they had already had a yoga on demand app that was an extra add-on to memberships that you could have done previously. But it's just an app that you can stream over 250 classes online anytime you want to. And that we gave access to everybody right away. And then within 2 days, we were up and running with studios from across the country under Honor Yoga, running 10 to 20 live stream videos through Zoom a day. And that was really well supported, and just grateful for the franchise for that, because that really kept us alive. And we were able to keep our membership mostly active with that virtual studio.
Yeah, that's awesome. That you're lucky in that regard. I think a lot of businesses probably didn't have that set up when they went into it, and maybe have different outcomes. Okay. So let's talk about, you've had this long career in banking. You're now a business owner. You're a female leader. You're connected in the female networks in Indianapolis and probably other places too. You interact with business owners on a day-to-day basis. What are the lessons about leadership that you think are important that you've learned throughout this career? That's such a big question.
It is. That's a huge question.
Sorry, I was like, wow, that's a big question. That's like, tell me the meaning of your life, right? Sorry about that question.
I don't know how to answer that. There's so much. It's funny because I don't even really think I ever think of myself as a leader, as funny as that sounds. I just try and leave people better than I met them before. I believe in building other people up, and together we will all be better. I'm a big fan of mentoring. I've been involved in Pass the Torch for Women for years. I enjoy just helping other people succeed. So I think that's just my nature of helping others. And I think that's why, I don't know if I it's funny because when you asked me to be on this, and I was like, I'm not really a leading lady, am I?
I have that reaction a lot from the women I reach out to. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's just, that's women, right? We don't give ourselves enough credit for what we do. We wear a lot of hats. But I think it's just being humble and knowing what you're good at and trying to help others along the way. Because if you come from a belief of abundance and everyone's going to be successful and everything's going to be okay, play to everybody's strengths, I think we can all be very successful.
Yeah. That humility piece, I think, is probably easy for a lot of women, but then the self-advocacy piece of recognizing leadership and recognizing you're a leader is the hard part. Where I'm not sure we could say the same for the opposite gender. It's probably flip-flopped the other way, right?
Agreed. Yeah. So, very much.
Can we talk about being a mom and doing all of this stuff? You have a full-time job, you have 2 children, you have dogs, you have a business, you have employees that you're responsible for, you have all of this stuff. What's it like to balance all of that?
There is no balance.
True story.
I think what helps me a lot, if I don't journal in the morning, I struggle with my day. I have to look at my day, what is happening, who needs to be where. Although now nobody's going anywhere. Although my daughter's dance classes did restart, so we have 2 nights we have something going on.
Yeah.
But my personality, I'm an Enneagram type 1, so I'm a perfectionist, and I feel like I'm responsible for everything. So I put everything on my plate, and that's to a fault, right? But it's just go, go, go. I try, and it's just one step in front of the other, and what's the next best thing that you can do to keep moving forward, and realize that you also have to take a break sometimes too for yourself. Take a podcast, go for a walk.
Yeah.
But it is a lot. And when you have people saying, mommy, 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 and you're trying to cook and you're reading an email and you're doing all the things at the same time.
Yeah.
There's a lot to do for that. But I think it's been harder during quarantine, obviously, just because everything's all in one space. Your work is all here, your kids are here, everything is in your face constantly. And when people know you're home, they're like, well, why didn't you answer the phone? Like, I know you're not doing anything, you're not out talking to anybody.
Yeah.
So I think there's that added burden of making sure that you are proving that you're working full time and you're online and you're talking to people and you're staying present and you're working 8 to 5. But in the reality, nobody's really able to work 8 to 5 right now because your kids are home and they need lunch and they need to not kill each other and they just broke a light in the basement. And
Right. They need to not black out on television for 12 hours in a day, you know? Yeah.
I know, right? Binge watching YouTube, whatever.
Yes.
But yeah, there is no balance. I think we all just kind of do our best every day and try and get through and keep pushing forward, one foot in front of the other. And I always ask my kids, what's the next best choice you can make? And I think that's what I do for myself too. What's the next best choice that I can move forward?
Yeah. You know, one of the things you do a really good job of on social media is I think that I see those posts almost every day from you of you journaling in the morning. And I think you're in your basement. It looks like a basement or a garage.
Yes,
and
basement.
You're journaling and you're doing yoga, or you're working out. And I think that's one of the things that I admire so much about you, Stephanie, is just that I think you not only show that stuff, but that it's very clear that you make time for yourself, even amongst all the other things you have going on, that you set space for you, whether that's to journal or to work out or things like that. And that's really been an inspiration to me. And I think that when we talk about balance, that's usually, you know, when everything that we've got to manage, that's one of the things that women let go of first is ourselves.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if you speak to that more, but, you know, just prioritizing yourself.
Thanks for saying that. That's an inspiration. But it is, if I don't get a workout in the morning, it's a mindset thing for me.
Mm-hmm.
I get up, I get something done, and at least I can say right away by, 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning, I have accomplished something for the day. I got that done.
Yeah.
But I'm a very routine person. If you ask my husband, I'm like the schedule Nazi of everything has to be done at a certain time. But I will be honest, at the beginning of quarantine, I let myself sleep in and I was still getting my workout in, but I wasn't meditating and I wasn't journaling because by the time my workout was done, my kids were up and I had lost my me time space. So I realized that I had to actually start setting an alarm a little bit earlier again, just so I could get my workout done, have my meditation time and journal. And I haven't been perfect about it just because quarantine is hard and I hit snooze far too many times.
Yeah, same.
But I think anything you can do to have like a morning routine just for yourself or an evening routine just for yourself, I think that really helps just your mindset and being able to be focused and be productive in your day.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. And that's what has really inspired me, so when you were starting the studio, I think is when you started really posting a lot about that stuff and I started to follow it and I was like, man, maybe I should get up earlier in the morning and do some of that me time stuff. So it was sort of an inspiration to me because I think it was one of the things that I was like, I don't have time for that, or, I'd rather sleep in, or, I've got to unload the dishwasher, or, all these other things that I would make excuses for. And it's really been good for me to create space for that.
Good.
To clear my head, to think about the day I have ahead of me, but to also release some of that anxiety and just being a type A woman, just, it kind of builds in you and you're like, it's gotta go somewhere. And if it doesn't go out in a workout, it goes out at my kids or my husband.
100%. Yeah.
I'd like it not to go there. So
yeah, we don't want that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I just thank you for being an example in that regard. So
well,
I think
I'm
more
glad
women should do that.
Hear that it helps. Thank you.
So talk to me about advice that you give to particularly young women who maybe are in banking or want to start their own business or want to get more connected. What's some advice that you have for them?
I think imposter syndrome is real, right?
Mm,
I think we talked about that,
yeah.
and you're never it's never going to be the perfect time. You're never going to feel like you're ready. You're always going to doubt yourself. Um, but you need to believe in yourself and just go with it. You can learn on the fly. Marie Forleo has a great book called Everything is Figure Outable, and everything is figure outable. And I think every new jump you take, anything you're doing in your career, you're not going to know everything. Nobody is. But the truth, what you need to do,
Mhm.
um, and don't be hard on yourself, but ask up and ask questions. Ask a lot of questions. Just be curious. Nobody gets mad at you for asking a question. A lot of times they feel great because you're coming to them for an answer, and it makes them feel good that you came to them, right?
Yeah.
So ask for that support, speak up, ask a lot of questions, and just have confidence in yourself that you can figure it out.
Yeah, I think, gosh, that's such great advice, particularly the speak up, ask questions, and don't be afraid of that stuff. I wish more women would overcome that imposter syndrome a little bit better. Would you talk a little bit about, I don't know, you're right. Imposter syndrome is so real. And I think we let it paralyze us. We let it paralyze us in so many ways where, I remember early in my career, I'd be sitting at a board meeting for a company I'd worked for. And I'm like, who the hell invited me here? I don't know what I'm talking about. Why,
Yeah.
and I just sort of sometimes, you doubt yourself. And I think overcoming that doubt is really challenging. Would you talk about how you leaned into that?
Yeah. So, I mean, we're not, I, I don't even really know how to answer that because I do have so much imposter syndrome on myself so much anyways. So you kind of think, sorry, my husband was getting on a phone call and he left the office. Work at home problems, right?
Yep. Right.
Um, anyways, so I don't think you really get over imposter syndrome. I think it's just you have to recognize when you're telling yourself that story.
Mm,
Um,
yeah.
and I think Brene Brown says that the best. It's like, so the story I'm telling myself right now is that I am not smart enough to be in this room with these people.
Mm,
Is that actually true? And every time I doubt myself or I'm thinking a negative thought, I have really tried to be very mindful of stopping myself and asking that question of what is the story I'm telling myself right now? And how can I prove that? Is that actually factual or is that just a myth I'm telling myself?
mhm.
So just being self-aware enough to realize what you're thinking, um, and your thoughts are your beliefs are truth, right? What you
Yeah.
think comes through and all of that. So it's just being self-aware enough to look inside and ask yourself those questions of, is this really true? Or am I just trash talking myself? And I like need to just stop, take a breath and pull back.
Yeah. I love that. No, that's really good advice. When you journal in the morning, I'm curious, when you journal in the morning, what's some of the stuff that you journal about? Like, are there specific questions you ask yourself every day? Do you just like go through your to-do
Yeah,
list? What's that look like?
it's right here. So I'll tell you. So it depends. I typically follow a journal. I've done Mel Robbins 5 minute or 5 second journal,
Hmm.
whatever it is. Hallie Simpson, who is a coach here in Indianapolis, she put together a journal and I've been using hers and that's my favorite.
Okay.
So at the beginning of it is daily quiet time. So it's just like half a page of you just brain dump what you're thinking
Mm,
on the page just to get it out. And it's interesting what actually comes out when you start writing. Um, and it just it's nice to just get it on paper. And then the next section of her journal says, I am. So it's all
mm,
of your statements of affirmations of mine are typically, I am strong, I am capable, I am smart, I am successful, I'm a good mom, I am a good wife, all of those types of things.
mhm.
And then her next section is my big win for today will be, And so, sometimes that's as simple as I'm going to have a cup of tea instead of a glass of wine today.
Oh.
Or
Yeah.
I'm going to not be on my phone in front of my children.
Mm.
Or it makes you set an intention for the day of what's going to be what you're going to do.
Mm.
And then she always has a know thyself. It's just some question about you, asking you to reflect on yourself. And sometimes they're silly, like, what's one thing that you find simple that most people think are hard? Or how are you currently playing small in your work? What could you do better?
Oh.
It's just asking different questions for you to think about your life in different ways. So I like that. And then she goes through, what are your highlights for the day? What are your thoughts and prayers? Who are you thinking about? And then you end with gratitude. And she
What
has
a great
10
journal.
spaces. Oh, she's awesome. Hallie Simpson, you're the best. And I don't know if they're in public or like produced yet, but everybody needs to get Hallie's journal.
I mean, she's about to blow up. It's going to be crazy.
Yeah. So that's what her journal is. And that's what I do. And it's really nice to start my day with gratitude. I used to end my day in gratitude. I would write in a gratitude journal before I went to bed every night. And now I like starting it with gratitude, but I do also, when family dinners are like my non-negotiable. We have to sit down for dinner together at a table, and everybody has to say what they're grateful for that day at dinner. So we still kind of end our day with a little bit of gratitude.
I love that. I love that. That's so much better than what I envisioned for journaling, because I feel like sometimes we sit down with a blank page and we're like, like, what am I going to write about? And it ends up being a to-do list.
Yeah. I like the intentionality of what Hallie has done. Because I'm like you, people are like, journal. And I was like, well, what am I going to say? I don't know. What am I going to It's like, where do I start? So the prompts help me kind of get through it that way.
Yeah.
But journaling or meditation's the same. Most people think you have to sit there and have an empty mind. That's not what meditation is. Meditation is sitting quietly and recognizing your thoughts and allowing them to come in and out of your brain and then refocusing inside. So meditation is not quiet. I like the things that go through my head while I'm meditating. You're like, oh, I'm supposed to be meditating right now. Oh yeah.
Yeah. You said you'd been doing that for like 2 years. What got you started on that?
I listened to a podcast called The Broken Brain with Drew Perowit, and he had Emily Fletcher on, and she wrote a book called Stress Less, Accomplish More. And she has meditation called the Ziva technique. And so I listened to that book. I don't read books. I listen to books, let's be honest. So I listened to that book, and she taught you how to meditate. And it was amazing how much better I felt when I do that. So Ziva meditation, Emily Fletcher, check her out. Stress Less, Accomplish More, great book. But she was the best part of that book, I love that she's like going through a sample meditation. And so you have a mantra that you say over and over to yourself while you're meditating, at least in this form of meditation. And it's funny to say it's Ziva, right? That's the form of her meditation. She's like, so you start your meditation, you're Ziva, Ziva, Ziva. I left money in my pocket. How am I going to remember that? Money in my pocket, money in my pocket, money in my pocket, money in my pocket, money in my pocket. Oh, I'm supposed to be meditating. Ziva, Ziva. And that's so true, because that's like what your mind does. And she's like, and that's okay. Not every meditation session is going to be like where you hit the bliss zone and you just kind of zone out for a minute. But just taking time to sit with yourself is so important.
I love that. That's great. Okay. So, this is a question I ask everybody, towards the end, and generally it prompts another question from me. So what's the trait or skill you think a woman needs to be successful?
That's a loaded question. Trait or skill to be successful. Which way do I want to go with that?
You can go 2 ways. I'll let you go both ways.
I think it's self-awareness. You need to know yourself and how you interact with others, because it's so important just to know who you are and know that not everyone is the same as you, and how do you interact with that, and just being mindful of that. I think that will put you leaps and bounds ahead of so many people.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so important right now. I think particularly in what our world is going through as well, is just having some self-awareness around how you show up and how that's different than how other people show up. I think that's so important. Do you
Yeah.
have recommendations for people about how maybe they're not self-aware, and maybe they're not even aware that they're not self-aware? Who knows? But
Usually they aren't.
right. If people wanted to do that work and become more self-aware, what's a recommendation you might have for them about how to do that?
I think there's a lot of just um, tests and stuff out there just to get to know yourself a little bit better.
Yeah.
I think if so, on the real like easy way, do like a strengths finder, a disc assessment, Myers-Briggs, something like that, just so you know kind of what your personality, Enneagram, know what your
Mhm.
personality is, right? And even just seeing and reading what the other types are, you're like, there are people out there that think that way. it's,
Yeah.
it's kind of mind blowing anyways. You're like, wow, people care about that. I don't know. At
You're
least
like, oh, I
it was
don't.
for
Yeah.
me. I was like, that is not what worries me at all. But it can't just be eye opening just to see what other people are like, and just understanding what your core values are.
That's great advice.
So I would say those are just simple introductory. Anybody can find those online. Strength Finders is the book. Do some of those tests.
Yeah.
But if you really want to jump all in, I can't say enough for getting a personal coach,
Yeah.
life coach. I did that last year, and the things you learn about yourself, and it's amazing and life changing. It's not always what people think they want to spend their money on,
Yeah.
but just the realization around what's really in your head and the stories you tell yourself, and realizing why you think the way that you do, and kind of different mindset shift of, wow, maybe I don't have to think about it that way, and I don't have to respond to everything right away, and people will be okay with it, I think everyone needs a life coach.
I could not endorse that statement more. You were just talking about I cannot endorse a personal coach more, and I said
Oh yes.
I have a coach right now, and I'd been sitting on this stuff since
Yes.
September. The idea for Ladies Leading, I had scripts, I had email invites, I had everything already planned out, and just hadn't done anything with it. And in February, she's like, "What are you waiting for? You just get your butt in gear. Why are you not activating on this? What are you afraid of?" And I think I had just told myself so many stories that weren't true about, this will be a failure, nobody will want to do it, it won't be worth the time, and she kicked my butt. And
Yeah.
I cannot agree with that statement about needing a personal coach more. I just think that they sometimes see things that we don't see and challenge us in ways that we couldn't challenge ourselves. So
Oh yeah. Like they'll say something like you're thinking about something, you can't come up with an answer, and they're like, well, why don't you just do this? It's like, oh my gosh, that's so simple, and it was right in front of my face, but I had my own blinders on and I couldn't see it. But you need that person to just like slap you around and say, Stephanie, stop making it so difficult.
yeah. Yeah. I mean, my coach Marla said to me at one point, she said, "Jess, I don't think you realize that this stuff is easy for you. And so you take it for granted, but what you don't understand is that the stuff that is easy for you isn't easy for a lot of people." And I think that for me was also the other moment of, she just sees things that I don't see, or has perspective that I don't have. And you're so right. A coach is
Yeah,
such a valuable asset for young women, particularly for self-awareness.
exactly.
I love that. I love that. Okay. I had one more question and it's left me now. You said you were going to go two ways with the skill or trait that women need. Do you want to go the other way too?
Yeah. So I think self-awareness is one thing, and then just confidence.
Mm.
You have to be confident in yourself. And I think most people, I don't think there's been one person that I have mentored either formally through like Pass the Torch or informally just through people I know. There has not been one woman that says, "Oh, I'm confident in everything I do." Everybody's like, it's like, "What do you want to work on?" And they're like, "I need to work on my confidence." Everybody needs to work on their confidence. Like that is a common
You're
theme.
so right.
And I think there's a lot to that. Just being Amy Cuddy's like power pose.
Oh yeah.
It works. I'm not gonna lie, I do that. Like I will sit, I'll close my office door, or I'll just like, if I'm going into a big meeting, I will sit in my car and I'll just do that in my car.
I prefer this one. I like this one a lot.
You like this one?
Yeah. I'm like, take up as much space as possible.
Yeah. And you just have confidence in yourself. Like nobody is perfect. And it's getting over the fact that everyone is judging you, because at the end of the day, everyone is more worried about themselves than they will ever be of you.
You're
And it's
totally
like,
right.
I think of like, well, oh, I already wore that to see this person. They have no idea what I wore last time they saw me, right? No clue. So it's like the things like that we worry about, we need to just let it go.
Yep.
Have the confidence in yourself. No, I am smart. I'm capable. I am able. I have earned the right to be in this room, and I can do it.
Yeah. My opinion matters. My voice matters.
Yes.
Yeah. I think so much of what you just said, I think self-awareness and confidence, they go so hand in hand with each other. You know, I feel like the more self-aware that you are, the more confident in your own way that you are, you know? So I think that those things might feel like a divergence from one another, but I feel like they're very intertwined.
Yes. Very much.
In the work that we have to do as women. But I think the thing that you said about we're all trying to work on our confidence is so important. That is such a good insight, I think, for all of us women to remember, is that we're all trying to work on being more confident and more self-aware, and that's something that we're all working on. So I love that.
Yeah. Yeah.
On cue, there's the dog. I love it.
The dog, you know, the cleaning lady's here, the dog is barking, my
right.
husband's on a call, kids are doing whatever.
Yeah, I have a whole Barbie dream house that's been built in my bookshelf down here. If you see, I've got like there's like a whole Barbie situation down here. Yeah, so I get where you're at.
I think we all have that right now.
Yeah. Well, Stephanie, thank you for taking the time to be on Ladies Leading today. It was so awesome to hear your story and share pieces of who you are and your experiences with everybody that's watching at home. So thank you for that. I appreciate having you. It was so fun to talk and catch up.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. And I really appreciate you thinking of me and thinking of me as a leading lady. So that means a lot. I'm very honored to be a part of it. So thank you so much. And I love what you're doing here. So keep it up. So great.
Thanks. Hey, thanks. For those of you that are watching, we hope you'll join us for another episode of Ladies Leading when we pass the microphone to another female leader. You can see all the episodes at ladies-leading.com. You can even nominate a woman that you think should be on our show. And want to thank our sponsor, the Center for Leadership Excellence. They're actively working to make workplaces better for women. So thank you all for joining us, and until next time. If I had two lessons that I wanted you to get from Stephanie's episode, it would be about imposter syndrome and self-awareness. The two really do go hand in hand, and they impact each other in really significant and important ways. Many of you know what imposter syndrome is, but for those of you that don't, it's essentially a psychological pattern where we consistently doubt our accomplishments, our talents, and our expertise, and have this sort of internal, persistent fear where we are afraid people are going to figure out we're a fraud. When I got my first CEO job, I had so much imposter syndrome. I'd sit in meetings with owners and clients and even our staff and think, who the hell let me be the CEO? How the heck did I get this job? Somebody is going to figure out I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm doing. I'd never taken a CEO class before. Not that you can. I didn't have a business degree. And so I had all of this internalized fear that people were going to figure out that I didn't know what I was doing. I did know what I was doing. And I did have the expertise and the knowledge and the accomplishments to allow me to be successful in that role. But I had played this script over and over and over again in my head that I didn't. And I had all this doubt in my accomplishments and all this fear that people would realize that I didn't have a business degree and therefore probably didn't know what I was doing. And I think that's what happens in imposter syndrome. It's prevalent in females, particularly women as they ascend into leadership. They have tons of imposter syndrome, but men aren't necessarily immune from it either. Stephanie made this comment early on in the episode. She said, imposter syndrome is real. It's never going to feel like the perfect time. You're never going to feel like you're ready. You're always going to doubt yourself, but you need to believe in yourself and have confidence that you can figure it out. And the reality is that imposter syndrome is just a story we tell ourselves. Later on, Stephanie said in the episode, I don't think you get over imposter syndrome. You have to just recognize when you're telling yourself a story and ask yourself, is that factual? Or is this a myth I'm telling myself? And as I did more research around how you get over imposter syndrome, that's exactly one of the main recommendations, is that you build greater self-awareness. And that's why these two lessons are so critical, but also so interlocked to each other. Because the way that we write different scripts for ourselves is to have better self-awareness. One of the things that Stephanie said about self-awareness that I thought was really important is she said, be honest with yourself around what are your strengths and what pulls energy from you and where you are getting energy from. And I think that is the important part about what it means to be a great leader and to be really self-aware. Self-aware leaders understand what their strengths are and the things that give them energy. And they put their time and their intention into those things because they understand what they do well and the things that they enjoy. They also understand that the places that they are not skilled or the places that pull energy from them are the places where they need to find other people to fill those gaps. Stephanie even said it, and she said it best. She said, surround yourself with people that know more than you do. She made a comment about, I'm a banker, I'm not an accountant, and I don't like that part of the financial side. And so she knew she needed to fill that gap with someone else. She probably could have very easily figured out how to be an accountant or a bookkeeper for her yoga studio, but she chose to find someone who does have that talent and maybe does enjoy that work far more than she does. And that's what's so important about self-awareness, is to know what we're good at and to know the things that give us energy, but also understand the things that we aren't good at and the things that don't give us energy, so that we can make decisions about where we fill talent gaps and who we surround ourselves with to help us become a more effective team, a more effective business or department or division or whatever. No one leader has all the skills that they need to run a company or to run a division. It's really about being self-aware enough to know who you need to surround yourself with. And I thought Stephanie made a bunch of really great points around that. I think the other thing she made a really great point around was self-awareness is also about understanding what boundaries you need to set in your life and the things you need to feel your best. Stephanie talked a lot about journaling, and I think that journaling is a great way to build self-awareness. And her episode really inspired me to buy a guided journal, because I can't sit with like a blank piece of paper and just think about things and write them on my own. But having a guided journal to be able to give me some prompts to write about and to think about has been really helpful. But I think the other thing about self-awareness that Stephanie talked about was recognizing that she needed time to meditate. She needed time to journal. She needed time to work out every morning, and that allowed her to feel at her best and to do her best work as an employee, as a business owner, and as a mom and a partner. And I think that is really what allows us to have better balance, or at least feel like we have better balance, is when we understand the things we need to feel our best, because then that allows us to set better boundaries. She sets boundaries in her morning and says, this is my time, and I'm going to spend this time during the day for me. And I think that when we get really busy, whether it be with family or work or a volunteer opportunity or something in our life, me time is the first thing that we take off of our list of priorities. And I think one of the things that I learned and that I've always admired about Stephanie is that she's really chosen to not take that off of the list and to invest in her personal time, and to also set boundaries around it, and to understand that that time makes her more successful. She said, be self-aware enough to realize what you're thinking, what your thoughts and beliefs are. They are your truth. And I think that that was one of the most important moments in the episode. Be self-aware enough to understand what you're thinking about yourself, to understand what you're thinking about the people around you, the people you work with, the people in your family. The stories you tell yourselves become your truth. And when we understand that sometimes we tell ourselves stories that are not true, that are not factual, and we have the ability to check those, to ask ourselves, is this true, or is this a story I'm telling myself? Is this true and factual, or is this a myth that I've created? And what do I need to be most successful and to feel at my best? We do that through journaling. We do that through meditation. Maybe you do that through walking and thinking about that stuff on your own and internally processing. But I think what makes great leaders is that self-awareness, learning to override the imposter syndrome, learning to understand what we need to feel our best so that we can set better boundaries, learning who we need to surround ourselves so that we can do our best work and fill gaps with other people's best work where our skills aren't. That's what makes great leaders. And so as you look at what you can do for self-awareness, I'd encourage you to pick up a journal. Like Stephanie said, I'd encourage you to investigate having a coach. Those are great resources for you to have. But also think about, when can I just spend some time thinking about me, and what are the things that I'm good at? What are the things that give me energy? What are the things that I need help with? And what are the things that suck energy from me? And when you understand those 4 things, I think you can begin to understand how to truly be self-aware, how to override your imposter syndrome, and how to do your best work every day. Thanks again for tuning in, everyone. Stay tuned next week for our next episode on ladies-leading.com. Please also take an opportunity to recommend a female leader to be on our show. We would love to hear about the women in your lives that are leading. And again, thank you to our sponsor, the Center for Leadership Excellence. They're actively working to make organizations great places for women to work. You can learn more at cleindy.com. We look forward to seeing you next week as we pass the microphone to another female leader.